So welcome to a somewhat different series of Unconventional. This time around, we are at GRIMMFEST for an online interview special. GRIMMFEST is an annual horror film festival that takes place in Manchester, showing some of the scariest movies and the horrific short films of that year. Thanks for tuning in. Over to you, Kieran.
Thanks for that, Fran. Hello everyone, Kieran here again at GRIMMFEST 2020, where I'm going to be speaking with filmmaker Charlie Steeds and actors Deiondre Teagle and Faith Monique about their new film, Death Ranch, which is premiering exclusively here at GRIMMFEST. Let's get into it. I'm Kieran, by the way. Nice to meet you.
Hi, Deiondre. Nice to meet you. I love your backdrop.
Thanks. Yeah, very professional.
Oh, yeah. No, I love it.
Hello, Faith. How are you doing?
Hello. Oh, hi.
I'm Kieran. Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you. Yeah, that is awesome. Look at all the superheroes. I love it.
Got to keep up that nerdy persona.
Oh, yeah.
So you were saying it's nice revisiting. How long's it been since you wrapped?
It's been about a year. Would have been a year in May. So
yeah.
Oh,
wow, May, June, July, August. A year and 4 months. Wow.
Yeah.
Quite a while. Yeah. Oh, there's Charlie. The first question, it's the same I'm asking everyone this week. What inspired you to make this film? Or in the case of Deiondre and Faith, what inspired you to get involved with a film like this?
Well, for me, writing and directing it, so I'd been wanting for a while to make a film in a sort of really kind of grindhouse exploitation, blaxploitation style. Like I love these types of movies. I love revenge stories, and I've just been wanting to do something. I mean, it just sounded like a dream project to be able to go to Tennessee. I'd never been to Tennessee before. Go and shoot on this ranch and just have, blood and guts and guns and all this sort of stuff. So that was kind of the appeal. And then in terms of how the story came to me, when I'm looking to write horror, I'm kind of I look to what horrors there are, like things that horrify me. And for obvious reasons, like racism in America, well, everywhere, but especially like the KKK and the history of the KKK in America is something that really gets under my skin, something that really horrifies me and a lot of other people. But I thought it's also something that you don't really see almost ever in horror. And there was actually I was watching loads of like grindhouse and exploitation trailers, and there was one for a movie that had these African-American characters sort of getting revenge on the Klan and all this sort of stuff. But these are they're kind of forgotten movies, and I thought it would be really cool to do that from like a modern perspective, not shot in the 70s, but set in the 70s. Now we're looking back, and now we can, do some more interesting stuff and really go the distance with, having these characters getting their revenge, So that was basically the inspiration for it.
And what about getting involved as actors? What was it about the script or the offer that they made you? What made you want to be involved in this film?
I think for me, when I when I signed up to audition for it, it said that it was being shot in my hometown. So I'm from Nashville, so that was the first attraction. And then I read the kind of the breakdown of the script and what the story was going to be. And I said, I'm always down to fight against racism, right? I think a lot of people would love to see that, especially even just a year ago, the atmosphere was setting that up for us, and then especially even now, it's especially now, so prevalent here in America. But then when I talked to Charlie about it, and he was giving me the breakdown on what the story was going to be, I thought, I would definitely love to, try to lend a hand in telling that story for him. And then was able to read the script afterwards, and I thought, man, this is going to be something super fun, something that I've never done before. So I think that was kind of the attraction of just being able to oppose racism and being able to tell a story like this. And it's super fun. I've always been a fan of blaxploitation because it, during the time that was the only representation that Black people got during the 70s in terms of big screen. So the Foxy Browns, the Shafts, all of those things definitely inspired me as a performer. So to be able to kind of reminisce on that by making a film like this was definitely an opportunity that I wanted to do. And it being shot in my hometown was just like the golden ticket for me. So.
And Faith?
So for me, I signed up to audition for it, but before I ever sign up for things, I always like to see if I do a lot of research and see what the director has done in the past. And so I saw that Charlie was an independent filmmaker. So I went to YouTube and found his work, and I started watching the trailers, but I thought I was watching the wrong, I was like, I must have clicked on something wrong. This is not the work of an independent filmmaker. So I went back and I'm like, it is. This is the guy. I couldn't believe how nice his work was. And so I thought, okay, I'm going to definitely sign up, because I put my all into my work. I don't want to sign up for something where the work, looks like it was shot on a cell phone or is cheesy, because, I'm investing my time and my energy into it. And so just seeing his previous work really attracted me to the project. And then just the breakdown of the character, which I play Angela Cobbs, seeing her breakdown, and that really attracted to me. You're just seeing her character. And then we had a Skype call with Charlie. I did. And seeing what a kind person he was, because I don't want to work for someone who has an attitude or horrible. And he was super duper nice, super duper kind. Again, he gave me the breakdown of what the film would be about. And like Deiondre said, anything to represent people of color, African-American people, and fight against this something worse than the coronavirus, this pandemic of racism, I'm down for. Definitely, I always will be. And so that definitely attracted me. And then reading the script is just a beautiful script. So yeah, that was definitely just great project to be a part of.
When I talked to Charlie, I didn't expect him to be as young as he is. So to see someone the same age as me and being able to work with somebody in that avenue, and for him to be so professional, but at the same time being someone that you can connect with automatically, it was something a little bit more special, than working with somebody that's, maybe twice your age and trying to tell a story to relate to you in that aspect. And then also he's from the UK, and so I think I was also interested in seeing what his interpretation of racism in America was. And so that was another thing that I was like, ooh, okay, let's see. This is something that I'm down for, just to take the dive. So that definitely played a big part in me too. So
fantastic. So obviously, like we've already kind of discussed it, that a big element of this film is about race, racism specifically, and there is definitely a certain climate around that at the moment, with things like the Black Lives Matter movements and various other let's say events that have been happening around the world. When it came to making this film, obviously when it comes to a grindhouse picture, there's a certain amount of almost satire to it. But at the same time, obviously, you approached it in a very delicate manner as well. You didn't make it an outright parody. What was it that you did? How do you feel that you approached it to make it so that the film could stay within the realms of grindhouse and yet not come across as offensive?
Yeah, it's a really interesting question, and it's been an interesting sort of adventure of delivering the film through to its final version and keeping intact this tone, which is grindhouse and is explicit and graphic, and also even it's so grotesque that it becomes humorous at times, but also delivering a message which is, the message has always been so important, and you can hear from, you know, what Deiondre and Faith are saying and how they connected with the script, how important the message of the film, of, you know, the anti-racism element of it is to all of us. And and now, because it's over a year since we filmed the movie, is the topic has just become, you know, I mean, it's exploded over the last few months, and you know, really come into the limelight. So and then here we are with this film that because it's a paradox that you've got sensitive issues with the genre of exploitation, which deals with things usually so bluntly. But for me, the way around it was just the film. It needs to have a message, but I don't like any film really that's too preachy, unless like we're talking about like Oscar movies. But when you're talking about B movies and indie films, which is what this is, overall it has to be entertaining. And we're just trying to make entertainment, but I think you can be way more entertained by a horror movie or a revenge movie if you're tapping into the horrors of real life. So that's basically what I wanted to do with it. And so long as the whole film, so long as it had what is essentially like an anti-racist tone, it is the African American characters getting their revenge on the KKK. Which, you know, in history is something, you know, for example, when I watch movies and you have scenes with the KKK, a lot of the time they're dealt with in a very sort of matter-of-fact historical way, which is important. You obviously need that to be documented. You need to understand the history and the truth. But also, when you're dealing with grindhouse type movies, it's fun to take that history, and this is like it's a reverse history. It's what if the KKK were so incompetent and you know, totally weak against the power of these African American characters who completely obliterate them through the film, and that is entertainment to me. It's cathartic to watch, and I'm hoping that even though it is a sensitive issue and that people, it does sort of like, it should sort of get people a little bit on the edge because it's an edgy subject. I'm hoping overall people get to just watch and celebrate and enjoy the catharsis of seeing the revenge take place in this way.
Fantastic. So Deiondre touched briefly on him wanting to see what your view of racism in America was. Was there a point where you were worried, or have there been points since where maybe there's been criticism because you are a white man from another country doing a film about racism in America?
Yeah, I mean, these guys, all of the cast, they really had to put a lot of trust and faith into me to come along and tell this story. And in fact, I've had the idea to do this film for a really long time. And it's been like top of my list of dream projects that I want to do. And I pitched it to many companies, and they liked the idea, but they weren't going to go near it because it's to an extent a little bit controversial, the subject matter of the film itself, but also I guess the fact that, yeah, I'm a white British guy. Why would I be making this film? It's not exactly my story to tell. But I try and make the films that I would want to see and that I would want to have watched. And I love, like I said, I love all these old blaxploitation movies that Deiondre was mentioning. And I feel like in the horror genre, if in the 70s the industry allowed more African American voices to actually come and direct horror films that have now gone on to become classics, which there are some, but there's nowhere near as many as there probably should or could have been, I think we would have seen a film like this back in the 70s. You know, I think that African American directors and writers would have gone this sort of a route, and told these types of stories. So the fact that still, the fact that I've now made this movie, and that I'm a white British guy, well, I mean, I'm gonna make it because I believe in the project, but the fact that it's me doing it, maybe that says something about, you know, just the general industry of horror films over the last few decades and who is getting to make what. But the whole film it had to be independently funded because, like I said, no company were willing to sort of back it. So I found independent funding just through private investors. And then really the only moment I would have felt worried was just the script going out, especially to people like Deiondre and Faith. Their reaction to the script and the racial elements, and, you know, especially the moments in the script where it gets a bit on the edge of potentially, you know, you don't want to cross over into bad taste, but you are also making an exploitation style movie. So their reaction to the script was really important. If I'd sent it out and they'd read it and they'd said, this scene this doesn't sit well with me, then I would have worked on the scene. But luckily for me, I sent out the script and it really connected with these guys. And from there on, everyone involved in the movie, they just treated this script with so much respect, which is kind of what's made it become like, it was a very easy film to make, and it feels to me like it kind of took on its own life. It became like a special project because so many people treated it with such respect and passion. People really responded to what was written on the page and really felt they wanted to get it on the screen as best they could. So in a way, the film took on its own life, and kind of almost came out of my hands. And just as a team, we've made this thing, which we're all really pleased with.
Great. And Deiondre and Faith, was there a point when reading the script for the first time where you thought, yes, I really, really want to be involved in this project? Was there a particular point where you felt that?
Go ahead, Faith.
Let's go, Faith.
Yes, there was just from the first word. See, for me, every word was so powerful. Such a special project. Just from even like Deiondre said, just from meeting Charlie. And then when we actually all met in person, none of us had ever known each other or met each other at all. Mm-hmm. It was insane because we have this director from London, England. I'm in Alabama. Deiondre, where were you living, or where do you live? Kansas. And then our other co-star lives in Atlanta, and we never met each other before, but we all instantly connected. And from the first word on the script, I instantly connected with it. From the first words, I knew this was a great project. Yeah, for me, right from the beginning.
Yeah, I think for me, it was the way, I know the genre of blaxploitation and grindhouse, they're kind of a little over the top, and sometimes things are delivered in a way that makes it as though it's making fun of the situation. I think for me, it was important to, and for everyone else involved, it was important for us to kind of just treat it as real as possible. Because when you look back at those films, they they were committed to what they were doing, you know, and they took everything very seriously. And so I think for me approaching it, it was to just keep it as true and as honest as possible. And when I was reading the script, it was it was very brutal, um, but I think from his perspective and seeing and knowing the history of things and what I've heard from like my grandmother and my grandfather, you know, the things that they've seen and experienced during that time, it was brutal, you know. And for me to read that and to see it on a page as blunt and blatant as it was, I think that he was doing, uh, you know, a good job at trying to explain how disgusting, you know, the Klan was and is. And it was important for us to kind of convey that through our performance and everything. And I don't know if you're too familiar with the film The Birth of a Nation, the like 1915 film. Like when I had learned about that film and how they portrayed Black people as these animalistic, you know, dehumanized people, um, and then looking back on the script, it was a complete opposite of that, you know, where the Klan are the ones that are barbaric and, you know, we're the heroes of our own story. And so it was definitely something that was very, very refreshing to see, you know, seeing how like films from back then and how not the Black people weren't even in the films, it were white, it was white people in blackface, you know. So even to that extent, it's, to me it felt like we were saying, okay, you know, that is the wrong way to explain you know, the situation as it was, you know, trying to convey the Klan as these heroes, where it was the complete opposite of that. So I think opposing the theme of that movie in particular was a big deal for me. Yeah, so I think that definitely kind of helped me keep on grinding while we were doing the work, during the process. So yeah.
Great, thank you. Right, so film obviously deals with some, let's say, extreme content. And you've mentioned as well about the fact that you had to raise the money yourself. You didn't have anyone backing you. Was there anything that you wanted in the film that you couldn't put in it, either because it was too extreme or because you didn't have the budget, the time, anything like that?
Yeah, the only thing that I would have done more of is it was it was always a difficulty trying to pull in extras from the local Nashville area to come and play the KKK. So I wanted to have, you know, this, because they're only really terrifying in the numbers, like it's the sheer number of them that makes them look scary when you're shooting. So for scenes like this, cross burning, you know, the more I had, the better. Like I would love to have had 50 KKK, and then I would love to have had Deiondre and Faith kill 50 KKK. But maybe in the film we end up with maybe 20. But I would love to have done it on a bigger scale with more KKK and more carnage. So that would be the number one thing, would just to increase really just the body count. But aside from that, I mean, even though it is a low budget movie, it is an independent movie, but I feel like people do get fixated on budget. But from my point of view, we had the best actors for the job. We had the ranch. It was a real ranch in Tennessee. It couldn't have been any more authentic. And we had the woods, and you know, we had everything we needed basically. All the sort of gore and splatter, because it's exploitation, we get away with. It's a B movie style. It's not completely realistic. The blood is spraying out of hose pipes, you know, and stuff, which is all part of the fun. It's all part of keeping the tone fixed in entertainment rather than, you know, it's not a serious documentary. It is supposed to be a fun B movie whilst also having some serious issues to discuss. So I would have, yeah, I would say with all my films, I would also have liked to have had more intense and elaborate gore for the horror fans, and yeah, and just a bigger clan to kill.
Last question. Now it's kind of weird with a type of film to think about something like this, but were there any scenes that you really enjoyed filming? Ones that maybe were even fun to actually do, purely from either a directing point of view or an acting point of view? Let's start with Charlie and
Yeah, well, funnily enough, the entire film was so much fun. I probably have never had so much fun making a movie. Yeah, it was really exciting to be going over to Tennessee. I'd never been to Nashville before. I'd never met any of these guys before. I'd never met any of my crew before. So there was me and this whole team working on the movie, and none of us had ever met. And we, like the guys said, we just got on so well immediately. And for me, the entire shoot was like we had fun and laughs the whole time, whilst also being totally professional and getting the job done. There were obviously scenes of, like, you know, torture and rape and these sorts of things that were intense, and you had to give the actors their space, and you had to deal with it in a, you know, you couldn't just be giggling and laughing through all of it. You had to keep your eye on everyone to make sure we were all where we needed to be. But generally, we had a really fun time, even with the Klan in the KKK outfits burning the cross. You have to keep a light-hearted atmosphere when you're filming that sort of stuff, because you kind of want to put to the back of your head the reality of what you're filming, because you're recreating something that is real and horrific. But at the same time, you're there to make a movie. The extras, they've all just come along sort of willingly or unwillingly to come and play these parts. And yeah, you just have fun and get on with it. So we had a great time.
Faith?
Me? Okay. So my funnest scene, it's gonna sound hilarious, or not hilarious, it's gonna sound interesting. My funnest scene was probably one of the most grueling scenes of the film. And I'm not sure, have you seen the film yet?
Yeah.
Oh, okay. So I won't give anything away, but I'm in a very horrible predicament. But that was my greatest day. I had about 3 or 4 days off from filming, and since it was filmed in Tennessee, I actually live in Alabama. I was able to go home for those 3 or 4 days, and I was just mentally preparing for this scene because I knew it would be intense. It was an intense scene, but clearly, because it's acting, it's not actually happening to me, but I wanted it to be as real as possible. So that day, the scene took about 9 hours, and I never broke character, and I didn't even eat any food. I stayed in character the entire time, and just really emotional and really drained, so that it could come across the screen that she was really being, you know, whatever the predicament was, that she was really feeling that pain. Even though it was kind of painful, it was so fun for me. It was very fun, very dramatic, very intense, and I really loved it. So that was my favorite scene during filming.
And Deiondre?
I would say for me, you know, I had a blast shooting the film, but there were definitely a lot of favorite moments. But I think for me, the ones that I would say are my favorites would be the ones where the connection between myself and Angela and Clarence, those kind of solidifying our relationships between us and how they kind of intertwine with one another. To me, it just added so much more depth to the script, and then to the story. So it kind of it was just so fun when all three of us met. We just kind of clicked instantly, and so to be able to kind of share that chemistry on set was it was a good experience for me. And I think it even though Charlie, I feel like, didn't intentionally do this, he kind of told he kind of like gave us room to tell that Black story, how the younger brother looks up to the older brother, and how the sister is ride or die for the Black man. And so I think whether he's wrong or whether he's right, in times of oppression, like, she's gonna be there for her brothers. And so I think that was definitely one of my favorite things to kind of tap into, because I'm an older sibling. Like, I'm the oldest within my family. And so I think it was kind of cool for me it was fun for me to kind of find that vulnerability on set with them, and being the youngest of the three. And then aside from that, it was definitely fun just killing a bunch of, clan members too. So definitely had fun with all of that. But yeah, just all around, it was a great experience. So hopefully that will, show through our performances, through Charlie's vision, everyone else that helped, and hopefully the audience will be able to experience that as well.
Well, thank you so much for talking with me today. And I wish you all the best with GRIMMFEST, and I hope that the reviews will come pouring in gloriously. Just before we finish, is there anything else you'd like to add to let people at home know about the film?
No, just thank you so much for having us and asking all those questions. And GRIMMFEST is going to be the world premiere. The film is just been finished, really. GRIMMFEST are the first to see any trace of it, basically. So we'll see how it goes down.
All right, fantastic. Thank you again, and
Thank you.
enjoy the rest of your day.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Bye.